All right, today we're going to dive into a concept that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's actually rooted in some really ancient wisdom. And honestly, it's an idea that has the power to totally change how you see yourself and your place in the world.
So let's just jump right in with a pretty wild question. How can you be in two places at once? Seriously, think about that for a second. You're right here, listening to this. But could you, at the very same moment, also exist somewhere else entirely? It sounds impossible, right?
Well, this little puzzle doesn't come from quantum physics or some modern philosophy class. It actually comes from an ancient letter, where the Apostle Paul writes that believers are seated in the heavenly places, even while they're, walking around here on earth. So, what's the deal with that?
To figure this out, we kind of have to put on our detective hats. The verse itself is the clue. So let's break down the language and see what Paul is really trying to tell us.
Okay, the key here is how incredibly specific the language is. Look at those little words, the prepositions. Paul doesn't say we're seated near Christ or like Christ. He says we are raised and seated with him, and we are in the heavenly places in Christ. This points to a shared status, a shared position. It's a reality we are in, not just something we're looking at from far away.
And that brings us to the big turning point in this whole thing. Is Paul talking about our GPS coordinates, about where our bodies are on a map, or is he getting at something way, way deeper? Is this about our physical location, or is it about our spiritual position?
And that question, well, it leads us straight to the answer. The key to unlocking this whole idea is making a fundamental shift in how we see things. We have to introduce this concept called spiritual reality.
So what is spiritual reality? Well, you can think of it like this. It's your true identity and your true position of authority, your confidence and freedom that are anchored in Christ. And here's the kicker. It exists completely separate from your physical circumstances. This is how you can be in two places at once. You have a physical location here on earth, and you have a spiritual position in heaven. And both are true, right now. So what does this actually mean for who we are? It completely reframes our entire sense of self. It means the most important thing about you isn't where you are physically, but who you are spiritually. It's not about your location, it's about your connection. Think about that. It means your identity, who you really are, isn't defined by your performance, your good days and your bad days, or what other people might think about you. Nope. Instead, it's securely anchored in a position of acceptance, authority, and grace. It's a stable foundation in a world that feels anything but stable. This is the bedrock of real resilience.
Okay, so this is a really cool idea, but what does it actually mean for, Monday morning? How does being spiritually seated change anything on a practical level? Well, it turns out the implications are huge. It changes everything.
Just look at the two ways to live. On one side, you've got an identity based on your circumstances. That's a roller coaster, right? It's defined by your job, your feelings, your wins, your losses. It's always changing. But on the other side, you have an identity that's anchored in your spiritual position, one of authority and grace that is totally secure and unchanging no matter what happens in your day-to-day life.
You see, this isn't just some abstract theological concept. It's an invitation. And it all boils down to this really powerful personal question. If you truly, deeply believed that your position of value and authority was already secure, what would you do differently today? What fear would you just let go of? What bold step would you finally take? That right there is the challenge and the amazing freedom of being seated in sovereignty.